Chapter 10. The Journey Continues. Pain. I could feel everything. I wanted it to stop. I could feel my skin blistering as it was licked by the flames. I could feel my blood boiling as heat overwhelmed my body. I couldn't move. I tried to lift my arms to fan away the fires, but they hung limp at my sides. I tried to get up, but my legs were unresponsive. I couldn't even feel them. Why couldn't I feel my legs? I looked down, but the smoke was burning my eyes. I blinked a few times, trying to fight away the smoky tendrils. My eyes began to clear, seeing through the haze and focusing down on the ground. My legs, they were gone. My lower half disappearing into the floor. Anguish. I could hear the screams. They were so very loud. So many voices merging together in my head. I couldn't separate them, save for one word. Help. I wanted to help, but I couldn't move. I started to lose the feeling in my arms. I looked down, fighting against the haze, to see my flesh and muscles melting off my bones. I tried to call for help, but every time I opened my mouth, I couldn't speak. My mouth filled with the taste of death. Fear. I was going to die. The dreaded feeling that my life was slipping away and there was nothing I could do about it. The taste of death lingering in my mouth. The feeling of despair, knowing that these were my last moments alive. I couldn't think about that. I had to do something. I tried to pull my arms up, to find something to grasp onto. The skeletal remains of what was left of my left arm shattered as I lifted it. Pushing myself through the pain, I worked on my other arm. This time I was able to free it, causing me to fall forward. I won't give up. Taking my free arm, I tried to pull myself free from the floor. I felt resistance. I dug my claws into the wood beneath me and pulled with all my might. I could feel myself moving, inch by inch. But then suddenly I was yanked backwards. I tried to cry, but the heat evaporated the tears before they had a chance to form. I won't give in. This world was swallowing me up whole, but I have to do what I can to help someone. Anyone. I sank my claws into the floor again, and I tried to pull myself forward. I could feel my body stretch as the resistance to my movement hardened. Forward. Move. Forward. Don't look behind. Keep looking ahead. I was pulled back again. Eyes forward. Eyes. I froze up at the sight. The thought that my body had melted to the floor and I simply had torn away from it. No. It was far worse. Paws. Dozens of paws were grabbing me. Dozens of disembodied limbs grasping and pulling me into some unknown void. The horror filled me as I tried to scream again. Of all the screams around me, I was the only one that was silent. I tried to pry one of the arms off of me, but it was all in vain. My remaining limb melted before my eyes, flesh, muscle, and bone. It was gone. Just as I am to be. I looked forward, trying to avert my gaze from the horrors behind me, only to be greeted by new ones. My vision was clear. Clearer than it had ever been. I wish it wasn't. Because right in front of me were children, their arms missing and their faces bubbling and melting. Only they were not the ones screaming. They were smiling. They crept closer to me as I was being dragged into the abyss. Their mouths moving as if speaking, but no words left their lips. They continued to smile as they drew closer and closer. I tried to close my eyes, but the flames melted my eyelids. I couldn't escape the horror. I dared to look back, my torso covered in grasping claws being pulled into what was now a fiery abyss. Flames burst forward, but nothing burned. The heat increased, flowing over my body as I got closer. I could feel my flesh starting to boil, and the pain was unbearable. I couldn't scream for help. I couldn't close my eyes or hide from the horror. I was helpless. The arms finally pulled me into the fiery abyss, and I fell. The last of my fur burning off. The flames covered my body as I could feel my eyes about to pop, my flesh and muscles falling from me. I fell. The world crashed around me as I was suddenly awoken. I was lying on my back staring up at... Was that the bedroom? I tried to get up and make sense of everything. That dream, it was so real. No, it was not a dream. It was a nightmare. So many had died. So many had suffered with their deaths being the only form of release from it all. I slowly got up, my back hurting as I assessed my situation. Onion was right. Again. I saw small bits of the floorboard had started to rot. I must have been asleep when it finally gave way to more weight than it was used to. The mattress seemed to have taken the brunt of the impact, otherwise I probably would not be getting up. I wiped myself off as I carefully stepped over the shards of wood and rusty nails.
"Miss, are you all right? I heard an awful noise and I feared the worst."
Yeah, I'm a bit bruised, but I'm fine. Can't say that much about the house, though.
"I told you it was not safe."
Yes, Mr. Know-It-All. I'll remember that for the future.
"Well, someone has to know it all, miss."
I think I'm finally starting to rub off on you.
"I will take that as a compliment, miss."
I smiled at him, trying to forget about the nightmare, though I doubt something like that can be forgotten so easily. Hey, Onion. It looks like I forgot to bring my luggage with me on that trip. Could you be so kind to get my bag? I really don't want to risk a second fall. Gonna be sore from this one for a while.
"Yes, miss. It's a good thing you didn't build me with legs."
If I did, do you think I would be walking when you could just carry me? I am a lady, after all. I flipped back my ears and waved my arms with the most elegance I could. Of course I don't have an elegant bone in my body, and Onion knows that. When Onion got my bag, I checked to make sure that I had everything. I only salvaged the small bits from that gun, but I kept the scope. It had a pretty good range on it, and I figured it would make a good scouting device. The supplies that Bo had given me were starting to run low. I was planning on stocking up when I got to Beaverton, but looks like I'll have to wait a bit longer. I would have to portion it better until I could find some more. I also noticed something large and heavy in the bag. I pulled it out and realized it was the gun I had found on the now floorless bedroom. I must have been a bit tired when I saw it, because I remembered it being much smaller. While only a handgun, it was obviously meant for some larger species than myself. I could barely put my paw around the handle. I could manage to pull the trigger, but based upon the recoil of the first gun I fired, I would be lucky if this thing didn't turn me into the projectile. I managed to pop out the magazine, and to my surprise, it used the same bullets that my smaller, more manageable gun did. How could something so much bigger use the same ammunition? Maybe it was for this very reason, so that scavengers such as myself don't have to be picky about their ammo. If it shoots, it's compatible. Or maybe I was just lucky. That sniper rifle did have different ammunition. I tossed the gun on the floor. If I can't use it, no point in having it weighing me down. I was starting to get hungry. I hadn't eaten since arriving in Beaverton. And even though I was hungry then, I wouldn't have been able to stomach anything. I grabbed a carrot snack and started to eat it before remembering. I snapped it in half and saved the rest for later. I took a small swig of my water, wishing that I could finish it off. The taste of vomit still clung to my mouth. Then I realized something. Something that I should have thought of before. Onion, I'm such an idiot!
"And this is news how?"
Shut up. This is a house, right?
"Yes, people used to live here."
No. What I mean is, shouldn't all houses have
"A usable floor?"
I was starting to miss the overly emotional robot from yesterday. Did I accidentally program him to be bipolar? Or maybe even this place can affect a robot's mind. No, I was talking about a kitchen.
A kitchen? Oh, well thought, miss. Although I'm sure 200 years of aging is not going to make for a good culinary experience.
As long as it keeps me alive, it can taste like shit. We looked through the first floor until I found what must have been a kitchen. Like everything else, it was covered in a layer of dust. There were still no signs of the family that used to live here. Maybe they evacuated in time? I know that my burrow was not the only shelter, of course. Even if they did survive, they would be long dead by now. There was only one window in the room, and it was still intact. It was a decent-sized kitchen, multiple appliances, an island in the middle with a very large refrigerator. I went over there immediately, but was dismayed that it must have lost power a very long time ago. Any food in it was rotted away to nothing. Only small remnants of plates and empty containers remained. I checked the cabinet for whatever I could find. I found a box of grass thins that had turned to dust. Behind it was something more promising. A box of fruity bombs. On the box showed a small squirrel flying holding a strawberry and dropping it as it exploded on a multicolored sphere that landed into a bowl. In smaller print at the bottom of the image was 10 times the fruit and sugar. Next to that was some even smaller print. Contained 0% fruit. So it was a box of fruit-flavored orbs that actually didn't contain any fruit? Then what was it flavored with? At least in the burrow we had dehydrated fruit that was actually made of real fruit. No wonder it's so crappy out here. Maybe the same geniuses were responsible for defending us. It did, however, taste really good. The box was sealed, and when I opened it, I was greeted by a very pleasant aroma. This stuff was still edible. I grabbed a pawful and ate some. It might not be the healthiest thing around, but it's food. I continued to look and found 2 more items that were still, I think, edible. A can of Hungry Ma canned carrots, and nifty cub apples. Another canned item that promised to last forever. I didn't open them. If they were edible, I would have to wait until later. I doubt they would last long outside their cans. Once I was contented with my search, which also turned up 3 bottles of Rad Cola. I'll make sure to keep the caps this time. I grabbed my bag and we headed out. I opened the door slowly and peeked out to make sure it was safe. I didn't notice anyone or anything, so I opened it the rest of the way and headed out with Onion taking the rear.
Oh my, what a gloomy day.
Yeah, it had been a very nice day yesterday. But today it looked almost as if the sky was depressed. While it was light out, I saw no signs of the sun. The clouds were thicker than ones that I had seen in books. I hope it didn't rain. Then again, maybe the rain was safer to drink than what we found so far. I reached the bottom of the steps that led off the porch when a voice startled me.
Welcome to a typical day in the wasteland. Can't be all sunshine and rainbows every day, now can it?
The voice was very gruff and raspy, like he, at least I think it was a he, had been smoking every day of his life. Smoke. Wait, maybe it was a survivor. I looked around me, but I couldn't seem to find the source of the voice. Show yourself. Are you from Beaverton? You sound hurt. I can try to help you.
I'm long past anyone's help.
From around the side of the house stepped a figure, at least a foot or so taller than me. He was dressed in a ragged button-up shirt. I couldn't tell what color it was supposed to be. I don't even think the thing was ever washed. His pants were torn into makeshift shorts, but the most noticeable thing was his fur, or lack thereof. His fur was gone, with his skin shriveled and wrinkled, as if it was pulled tight over his muscles. It looked just like a...
It's a ghoul, miss! Stand back!
There was something different about him, though. I don't recall any of the other ghouls standing so non-threateningly. I don't recall them talking before either. He was obviously not a burn victim, or at least not from Beaverton. His skin looked like it had been this way for a very long time. And I also couldn't make out his species. His ears were missing, but he obviously could hear me. and what looked like his tail was simply a wiry mess of bone and tissue.
Typical. I show myself to you, and what do I get? Oh no, it's a ghoul. Quick, kill it before it wants to eat my brains.
You're different from them, aren't you?
And the rabbit hits it right on the nose. Take it it's your first time seeing a more civilized ghoul, sweetheart.
Don't call me sweetheart. And yes, our previous encounters didn't leave a very good impression. He pulled something from his pocket. My instincts made me reach for my gun, but they were swayed when I saw it was nothing more than a stick. He put it in his mouth and started to chew on it. Was it a popsicle stick?
Whoa, easy there, Carrots. What, you think I was gonna attack you? Defenseless ghoul like me wouldn't stand a chance against you and your butler bot.
Don't call me Carrots either. I have a name. And for your information, we've been through a rough couple of days, so we're just a little on edge.
Don't call you Carrots. Well, I just figured, you being a bunny and all, that you would have a love for all things carrots.
Just because I'm a rabbit doesn't mean... Where's my bag? What? Hey, how did you... How did he? One moment he was standing there, and the next he had my bag. I didn't even see him move.
Let's see here.
He started to rummage through my bag.
You've got some small packets of dried carrots, a couple cans of carrot paste, and even a smaller plastic carrot.
He paused for a moment and pulled out the now broken carrot recorder. He stared at it for a few seconds before he shook his head.
And I can't call you Carrots. And if I can't call you sweetheart, what should I call you?
The name's Olivia. And I would appreciate it if you gave me my bag back now. I was starting to dislike this guy.
Well, nice to meet you, Olivia.
Who are you? And what are you doing here?
I should be asking you that. This is obviously not your home. So that would make you, burglar? Or should I say cat thief? But you seem to lack the necessary species for that.
For your information, we were not breaking in here to steal, we just needed a quiet, safe place to rest for the night. It's not like this is your house either. I don't think anyone's lived here for a very long time.
Oh well, you're quite right, Olivia. This is not my house. Nor is it yours. I guess we're at an impasse, you and I.
Who does this guy think he is? He may not be one of those other ghouls, but at least they're not this chatty. Bag. Now.
Alright. Here you go.
Thank you. Now if you'll excuse us, we have a long trip ahead of ourselves, and I'd like to get going while there's still light, Mr.
The name's North. Northwest.
I hate to break it to you, but that's not a name. That's a direction.
Well, of course that's my name. See?
He pulled out a small scrap of fabric. It looked like the bottom of a necktie. It was much cleaner and well kept compared to the rest of his current clothing. On the back was the monogram stitched in gold. NW? That could mean anything. How do you even know it's yours? You took my bag so deftly you could have stolen that too.
Oh well, it's my word against yours, sweetheart.
I said don't call me... Never mind. Onion, let's get out of here. This guy's really annoying me. Onion? I turned and saw Onion sitting on the ground, completely disabled. My jaw dropped in disbelief as I saw a small round object stuck on his casing. How the hell? I turned around to confront this North fellow, just to see that he was gone. I ran across the lawn and looked all over, but he was nowhere in sight. I ran back to Onion and grabbed my bag. I had a spare energy capacitor in here somewhere. I noticed something as I was looking. The small bag with the coins was missing. I was beside myself, doing the only thing that came to mind. I screamed louder than I ever had. North, you fucker! He was gone.
What happened, miss? One moment we were talking to that ghoul thing, and the next I was deactivated.
That asshole somehow snuck up on you and placed a small EMP device module on you and took my bag. The fucker also stole my coins.
The treasures of Zootopia? Oh dear. I know you had a bit of a fondness for them. I was kind of hoping you'd be able to collect the whole set. What are the rest of your items?
The coins were all he took. I know it could have been worse. He could have taken the food or the supplies, but he made a fucking fool of me. And that's what makes me so angry.
I'm just as baffled as you, miss. I made sure to monitor everything just in case he turned out to be dangerous. Yet my sensors detected no movement.
Well, I guess danger comes in many shapes, Onion. How the hell did he manage to do all of that? I don't even think a cheetah in peak physical condition could move that fast.
Another mystery to be solved. But I'm sure it can wait for another day, miss. We really should get going.
Yeah, you're right. Let's go. But if I ever see him again, I'll have a few choice words with him. I was fuming over the whole thing for at least another hour before I started to calm down. It wasn't so much the fact that he stole from me, but rather how he did it. I tried to wrap my head around it, but I just couldn't comprehend it. Did they somehow develop technologies that enabled someone to teleport? No, it can't be. An energy surge that large would be bound to leave some kind of sign. Giant bolt of electricity or a bright flash or something. At least that's how it was in my books. Maybe some science fiction was less fiction than I thought. I shook my head free of these thoughts. I had to be thinking of my immediate future. I may not even run into that fucker again. He better hope he doesn't run into me. Even trying not to think about it kept making me think about it. And now it was starting to make my head hurt. Again, I put my paws on either side of my head, pretending I could just simply squeeze all of this out of me. But I was only met with a bump on the head after running into Onion, who suddenly stopped. Ugh, Onion, why'd you stop?
Miss, I think we should get off this road.
Why? He didn't have to give me an answer. In the distance I could see what looked like a pillar of red smoke extending far into the air. What was that? I knew it wasn't fire. At least none that I've ever seen. Smoke from a typical fire is gray or black, not red. It was pretty far away, but I was able to make out the two large shapes near the base of the smoke. I couldn't tell how big they were. But from this distance, they were obviously much larger than Onion and I. I wanted to get closer, but previous experience kept telling me no. Wait a second. I remembered the scope I had taken from the sniper rifle and pulled it out of my bag. I knew it would come in handy. I closed my right eye and put it to my left. After a few seconds adjusting it, the shapes started to come into focus. They looked metallic. I could see that one of them resembled a rhino, while the other was an elephant. Robots? No, wait. I focused on the rhino a bit better. It wasn't a robot. I saw his head. His light gray hide revealed that he was simply a mammal, in some sort of oversized mechanical suit. The elephant, however, still had a headpiece on. Who were they? Hey, Onion, can you identify those two by chance?
I'm afraid not, miss. They are too far from my sensors to pick them up, and the range of my ocular unit falls too short to get a clear image.
I'll have to see about upgrading that. It looks like they're wearing large mechanical suits of armor. Ring a bell?
Give me a moment to process.
I went back to the scope and watched them some more, making sure we had enough cover so that they didn't see us. Luckily, they were not facing our direction. Yet, I could see the rhino talking to the other one, but even if I was closer, reading lips was never my thing. For all I knew, they were trading cooking recipes. The red smoke was still strong, and when they got close enough to it, it gave their chrome armor a dull red hue.
Well, miss, the only thing that I have on record involves a pre-war group of soldiers called the Steel Guardians. They were formed from the elite members of the Zootopia Police Department Special Response Squad. Originally, the SRS was tasked with the protection of Zootopian citizens from domestic attacks that regular officers would not typically be able to handle. When the war broke out, the Steel Guardians were formed out of the SRS to help combat the rising hostilities and advancement in wartime technology. They were known for their powerful exoskeletons that increased their resistance and allowed them to easily handle large weaponry. Not much else is known about them, I'm afraid. Most records were lost during the war.
Well, sounds like they survived. Or at least their technology did. Steel Guardians, huh? While they sounded like very helpful mammals back in their time, now I'm not so sure. For all we know, these are simple thugs who just happened to find these suits and were taking them for a joyride. Best that we keep our distance. I think we should try to... I was interrupted by the sound of a loud buzzing that was getting closer. I looked around to see where it was coming from, but I saw nothing that could have made the noise. It was getting louder, so it must be getting closer. Then I looked up. Onion! Hide! The noise was almost deafening as it flew over us. It was large, larger than any of the vehicles that I had seen scattered around us. The body was long enough to fit at least half a dozen elephants. While it had many hard edges, almost like panels, they seemed to flow together smoothly. Extending from either side were two large wings. I could see a giant disc in each of them that held a propeller. It bent forward and back as it attempted to set down near the billowing pillar of red smoke. I focused my scope the best I could and inched forward a bit. I could see the cockpit. Inside was someone much smaller than the others, but I couldn't make it out. Although I could tell the pilot was not wearing the same armored suit. After it finally landed, the door slid open. The rhino grabbed something off the ground, his headgear I assumed, while the elephant lifted a large duffel bag and tossed it into the flying machine. They both climbed on as it sped up its engines again and started to take off. It flew towards us and we did our best to hide. If it saw us, I don't think it cared. Whoa! If we had one of those things, we'd get to Hope in no time.
Okay, miss. Next time we see one, feel free to ask for a ride. After all the kinds of mammals we've met so far, I'm sure they would oblige.
Maybe I'd pay for that ride in scrap metal. I looked Onion straight in the eye. Or Sensor. Or hell. I really need to put something on him to indicate where he's facing. It worked though, because he shut up and we both checked for any other surprises. First ghouls, then bandits, and now mammals in giant tin cans? What's next? Giant crustacean? Aliens? At this rate, I think it would take a lot to surprise me. Let's try to avoid these guys for the time being. Friend or foe, I'd rather not learn the hard way.
Agreed, miss.
I looked at my Pip-Boar. Its navigation menu was still open. According to this, we had about 5 miles to go until we got to Hope. Or at least, where I hope it is. 5 miles. That really doesn't sound so far. But that's nearly 3 times the distance between the stadium and Beaverton. And that felt like forever. Plus, who knows what else we'll run into. Best to take it one step at a time. We're no use to anyone dead, except looters. And those savage ghouls.
Ah! Miss, is everything all right?
Yes, everything's fine. I just keep thinking things I don't want to think.
Well, how about some nice relaxing music?
No music, Onion. The last thing we need is to wake the dead again.